Before I start this video, I want to make one thing very clear. I don't have an agenda. When it comes to hip-hop, I'm always honest about my opinions. So if you're expecting this to be some kind of troll video, it's not. This is something I've already made clear on my channel for months. I've listened to both Nick Cannon and Eminem's entire discographies, front to back. In fact, there's even a comment from another hip-hop YouTuber on my Nick Cannon video, acknowledging that I genuinely believe Nick Cannon has a better discography than Eminem. I know that kind of take might stir some people up, but controversy isn't my goal. Honesty is. I actually take the time to listen to the music. I don't rely on hype or bias. I give my real thoughts based on what I hear. Now yes, the title of this video is going to get clicks. That's the game on YouTube. But here's the difference with me. My videos aren't clickbait. I always go into detail and explain exactly why I feel the way I do, and this video will be no different. I also want to point out that the majority of people that's going to have an opinion about my analysis didn't listen to Nick Cannon nor Eminem's entire catalogs. The average hip-hop fan has opinions about music they never listened to. So with all that being said, let's get into it. Part 1. Eminem's Great Albums versus Nick Cannon's One Contender. There's no denying that the Slim Shady LP is a flawless album. Eminem introduced his unique style to the world with infectious delivery, sharp lyricism, and a wide range of emotional expression. Whether he was being funny, sad, angry, or completely unhinged, Eminem's performances felt captivating and never monotonous. His ability to switch tones depending on the song's concept gave this album great variety. The production is another standout. Every beat fits his style perfectly, elevating his storytelling and character-driven raps. Songs like My Name Is, Guilty Conscience, 97 Bonnie and Clyde, Role Model, I'm Shady, and Still Don't Give a showcase Eminem's ability to blend lyricism with theatrical delivery. From start to finish, there isn't a single weak track. It's a complete and consistent project, undeniably one of Eminem's best. The Marshall Mathers LP is another strong entry in Eminem's catalog, although not without flaws. On this album, Eminem sounds more focused and hungry to solidify his place as one of the greats. His lyricism is top-tiered, filled with vivid wordplay, shocking narratives, and emotional vulnerability. His attack on critics, media, and personal demons is intense and passionate. However, not every track lands. For example, The Way I Am features a shouting flow that feels overbearing. Amityville suffers from the same issue, with its abrasive vocal delivery making it hard to listen to. Despite these drawbacks, the album still succeeds conceptually. The horrorcore influence adds an unsettling but creative edge. While it may not be perfect, it's undeniably ambitious and mostly effective.
If I was a shorty, I would look up to y'all niggas, ayy. A whole lot of fool fuck shit, can't fuck with y'all.
Though it's technically an EP, The Miseducation of the Negro You Love to Hate stands as Nick Cannon's strongest musical effort, and it arguably rivals Eminem's more personal work in terms of concept and emotional depth. What's most surprising about this project is how mature and polished Cannon sounds. His vocals, both rapped and sung, are delivered with conviction and vulnerability. He explores heavy themes, navigating fame, surviving betrayal, handling envy, and trying to uplift a community that often turns against him. The song Instead of Nipsey is a standout, as Cannon expresses a deep emotional burden, comparing his mission and values to the late Nipsey Hussle's. He even questions whether he deserves to live over someone more beloved, highlighting his emotional exhaustion. What adds a layer of complexity is Cannon's ongoing feud with Eminem, which becomes a backdrop to the project's larger theme, trying to unite people who only want division. Cannon's desire to squash the beef with Eminem, even inviting him to Wild 'N Out, was met with disrespect, which further fuels the reflective tone of this EP. Performance-wise, Nick Cannon brings versatility. Songs like No Love for Me showcase strong melodic vocals, while other tracks display a commanding rap presence. His flow, delivery, and emotional investment in each song feel authentic and surprisingly engaging. The only minor drawback is the intro track Know What It Is, where his voice sounds off, perhaps due to recording issues, but even then, the performance itself is creatively styled. Overall, this project proves that Nick Cannon has more artistic depth than people give him credit for. It's introspective, conceptually tight, and musically compelling. Nick Cannon's only serious contender in his discography to Eminem's two classic albums is his EP The Miseducation of the Negro You Love to Hate. While the project is surprisingly strong and showcases Cannon's growth as an artist, it simply doesn't stack up to the level of Eminem's The Slim Shady LP or the Marshall Mathers LP. Those two albums are landmark releases in hip-hop history, both creatively and technically. Despite Cannon delivering a focused and passionate performance, his project doesn't match the lyrical precision, cultural impact, or consistency that Eminem brought to the table during his peak. Part 2. Nick Cannon has albums on the same level as The Eminem Show. On the Eminem Show, Eminem takes a noticeable turn away from the outrageous shock value and leans into introspection and social critique. One of the album's most praised moments is the opener White America, where he not only criticizes systemic issues, but also acknowledges the privilege he holds as a white man in hip-hop. This self-awareness is refreshing and adds weight to the album's message. He follows this with deep personal reflections on tracks like Cleaning Out My Closet and Say Goodbye to Hollywood. These moments showcase his maturity and ability to translate personal pain into compelling music. Still, Eminem doesn't abandon his more playful side, as heard in the witty and catchy tracks Business, Drips, Without Me, and Superman. One of the album's most surprising highlights is Haley's song, where he experiments with singing and pulls it off impressively. However, the project isn't flawless. Songs like Square Dance, Soldier, Till I Collapse, and My Dad's Gone Crazy suffer from grating flows and excessive vocal emphasis that feel forced and at times downright annoying. These tracks hurt the album's cohesion and enjoyability. In conclusion, the Eminem Show is a solid album with strong concepts and memorable hits, but it's far from perfect. The inconsistency in vocal delivery and some underwhelming performances prevent it from reaching the same heights as his earlier work.
I gave you money, that's mine. Keep the money, that's fine. Can you pay back the time?
Nick Cannon shocked me with this project. He took the best elements from his previous mixtape, The Gospel of Ike Turn Up, particularly his R&B inspired style, and fully embraced them here. His singing vocals are surprisingly strong and well suited for the album's dark sensual R&B production. The production is a major highlight. Every beat sounds crisp, moody, and immersive. The concept is clever too. Every track on the album involves some form of the word call, exploring his relationships with women from multiple emotional angles: longing, regret, disinterest, and desire. Songs like Frozen Call stand out not just for concept, but execution. Nick's raw, unfiltered vocals, even his voice cracks, add emotional authenticity. Then there's Hold My Calls, where he delivers such a smooth and polished vocal that you'd never guess it was Nick Cannon. Another gem is Waiting for Your Call, Call Waiting, where his sensual delivery matches the addictive sample-based instrumental perfectly, especially in harmony with the female vocalist on the hook. While not every track is completely polished, some still carry traces of amateur execution. The creativity, emotional depth, and musicality are undeniable. Calling All Models isn't just good for Nick Cannon, it's good period. Nick Cannon continues to surprise here. The explicit tape feels like a fully realized artistic statement, blending R&B and rap with strong vocals, heartfelt themes, and dynamic production. The raunchy album title and cover art may suggest it's all sex and jokes, but much of the album has an inspirational and introspective feel. He pays homage to classic R&B and hip-hop tracks, sampling them with care and creativity. For example, F*** You Better draws from Mary J. Blige's Love You Better, delivering a moody late-night atmosphere. 7 O'Clock reinterprets Usher's Nice and Slow in a fresh, seductive way, and Nick's vocal control is impressive. However, not everything lands. Tracks like Lil Bro, The Provider, and Good D veer into comedic territory that undercuts the sincerity of his performances. Nick Cannon can sing and rap well, he doesn't need the jokes, and when he drops them, the music speaks louder. The guest features elevate the project, especially Faithful with Brandy, which is both emotionally uplifting and vocally tight. Cannon's chemistry with Brandy is undeniable, and the second part of the song, where he confesses his feelings for a taken woman, is deeply relatable and beautifully delivered. The raunchier tracks also shine. F*** Me So Incredible, parts 1 and 2, might sound silly on paper, but Nick delivers smooth R. Kelly-inspired sensuality with infectious melodies and layered performances across 2 instrumental switch-ups. It's catchy, confident, and surprisingly refined. In conclusion, the explicit tape proves that Nick Cannon's growth as an artist is real. Strip away the assumptions, and you'll find a performer who is versatile, passionate, and capable of crafting great music. While the Eminem Show remains a fan favorite, it's far from flawless, and the same emotional depth and musical creativity people praise in Eminem's work can also be found in Nick Cannon's Calling All Models and Raw &B. In fact, Nick Cannon's projects may surprise listeners with how conceptually consistent and emotionally engaging they are. If the Eminem Show gets credit for its introspective tone, genre blending, and cultural commentary, then Nick Cannon deserves equal recognition for doing all of that without the luxury of public goodwill or critical bias in his favor. It's time people gave his discography a serious listen because the music speaks for itself. Part 3. The 5 albums after Eminem's show were terrible, and Nick Cannon's discography easily beats those 5 albums. Eminem took a massive step back with Encore. The album is a chaotic mix of serious subject matter and juvenile humor, often switching from political commentary to cartoonish lyrics without any cohesion. The production feels like a pile of leftover shady aftermath beats, uninspired and dated. The biggest issue is Eminem's style. His use of grating accents, forced flows, and random yelling feels lazy and annoying. It's hard to believe an artist of Eminem's caliber allowed this to pass as a finished product. While Like Toy Soldiers stands out with strong production and meaningful content, the rest of the album lacks any staying power. Relapse continues the same formula, except worse. The concept of Eminem returning to rap post-rehab could have been brilliant, but the execution is atrocious. Weird accents, gimmicky horrorcore themes, the dark atmosphere feels more cringy than sinister, and Eminem's obsession with shock value drowns out any real emotion. Only a handful of songs have decent flows, but even those are buried under a mountain of awkward performances. Another swing and miss. Cringy lyrics, bland production, and unbearable vocal delivery. Eminem may have been lyrically sharp on Recovery, but he completely forgot how to make music that's enjoyable. The entire project is overly intense, with Eminem yelling on nearly every track. He sacrifices musicality for over-the-top energy, and it becomes exhausting fast. No Love features a catchy chorus, but Eminem's aggressive delivery ruins the vibe. The only true highlight is Going Through Changes. The rest of the album is forgettable and joyless. All bark, no replay value, too focused on bars, not enough soul. Marshall Mathers LP 2 as a sequel had potential, but Eminem's delivery once again sabotages it. While there are references to the original Marshall Mathers LP, including a Stan follow-up and alter ego callbacks, the execution falls flat. The production doesn't mesh with his intense lyrical delivery, and Eminem gets lost in his own technicality. He showcases his skill, but the songs themselves are rarely enjoyable. This isn't a case of bad rapping, it's bad music. Strong concept, poor delivery. Eminem can still rap, but it doesn't matter if the songs aren't good. Possibly Eminem's worst album, Revival is plagued by jarring vocals, tone-deaf rock production, and generic political takes. His yelling is even more exaggerated here, and the overall sound resembles bad mall rock rather than rap. There are emotional moments, like Bad Husband and Castle, where Eminem reflects on family and past mistakes, but even the vulnerability can't save the dreadful execution. The production is lifeless, and the performances have zero replay value. Nick Cannon's debut album is far better than many give it credit for. His confidence and passion are evident throughout, and he brings a genuine effort to both his rap and R&B influenced tracks. While some production and guest features fall flat, Nick holds his own with charismatic delivery and thoughtful concepts. Highlights include Your Pops Don't Like Me, an underrated banger with a slick G-funk beat and sharp verses, and I Owe You, his heartfelt ode to his mother, reminiscent of Tupac's Dear Mama. Another standout is Main Girl, featuring Nivea, which fuses romantic production with an addictive soul sample and incredible vocals from Nivea. A surprisingly strong debut that mixes confidence, emotion, and replayable hooks.
Here is something that you can't understand. My wife married me because she loves my...
This mixtape is chaotic but full of heart. The concept, embracing being labeled as corny, is actually brilliant. Nick Cannon uses this project to champion misfits and outcasts with tracks like Nerd Music and I'm So Whack. While some moments are undeniably goofy or awkward, Weirdo is almost unlistenable. Others like Cannon Freestyle and Pearls are excellent. His freestyle over Lil Wayne's Cannon beat proves he has bars when he wants to, and Pearls is written for his unborn children, is emotionally stunning, and showcases his growth as an artist. Imperfect but bold and conceptually unique. More heart and risk than anything on Eminem's Revival.
I've been so focused on stacking my dollars, my life is a positive plus. I just spent the weekend with the...
This is arguably Cannon's most intriguing project. The R&B heavy mixtape showcases a vulnerable, experimental side of him. Auto-tuned, crooning, and melodic flows dominate, and it works better than expected. Songs like Sweet Tina and All On Me are surprisingly deep and personal. Even when the rapping falls short, like on Wasted, the honesty, humor, and ambition shine through. Overdue is a major highlight, where Nick fully leans into his melodic strengths and creates a genuinely captivating performance. A flawed but emotionally rich project with creative ambition and strong moments of execution. While Eminem's The Eminem Show still holds its place as a classic, what followed it was a 5-album stretch of inconsistent, joyless, and frustrating music. In contrast, Nick Cannon, the rapper people love to write off, quietly released a catalog filled with creativity, authenticity, humor, and even emotional depth. Nick Cannon's music may not always be technically perfect, but it's genuinely better, which is something Eminem constantly failed to achieve with these 5 albums, which is just making good music. Let's be honest, if Nick Cannon's name wasn't attached to these projects, more people would recognize their quality, and if you remove the bias, it's clear. Nick Cannon's discography from this era easily outperforms Eminem's 5-album decline. Part 4, Eminem's albums after Revival still aren't better than Nick Cannon's discography. On the album Kamikaze, Eminem returns with a chip on his shoulder, directly addressing the negative criticism he received for Revival. This anger fuels a more focused and engaging style on Kamikaze, and for the first time in years, Eminem starts to sound energized again. He channels his frustration into strong lyrical performances and aggressive flows that often work in his favor. Tracks like Not Alike are major highlights, thanks to a bouncy instrumental and great chemistry between Eminem and Royce. There's an impressive mix of technical skill and actual listenability here, but the problem is consistency. Kamikaze can't maintain this quality across the full track list. Eminem quickly falls back into old habits, delivering songs that feel more like lyrical exercises than enjoyable music. A step up from his previous albums, with a few solid bangers, but still bogged down by filler, awkward features, and songs with zero replay value. Music to Be Murdered By opens on a meta note. Eminem addresses critics once again, insisting that he's still one of the best lyricists alive. And to be fair, he's not wrong. Lyrically, he's still sharp, but the issue remains. Technical skill doesn't always make for good music. There are some bright spots. Tracks like Darkness and Leaving Heaven show Eminem at his most thoughtful, tackling real-world issues like mass shootings and personal trauma. Skylar Grey compliments him beautifully on Leaving Heaven, and the production on these emotional cuts is effective. Unfortunately, too much of this album is still mired in the same flaw that's plagued Eminem for years. He confuses being lyrical with being listenable. There are too many tracks where he raps well, but fails to connect emotionally or sonically. A decent album with standout moments. But once again, the replay value suffers under the weight of over-technical, emotionally cold execution. The death of Slim Shady attempts to bring closure to Eminem's long-running alter ego, Slim Shady, but instead of feeling like a grand finale, it often feels like a tired retread. There are flashes of creativity, like Guilty Conscience 2, where Eminem critiques Slim Shady's past hypocrisy, but most of the album is filled with dated references and cringeworthy attempts at shock value. His jab at Caitlyn Jenner feels stale, as that topic stopped making headlines years ago. Similarly, his comments about bullying, framed in a way reminiscent of controversial podcasters, feel try-hard and tone-deaf, coming from a 50-year-old artist. The overarching issue is that Eminem sounds like he's trying too hard to be edgy and relevant. While his flows are still technically great, the execution feels hollow. Only 5 tracks on the project really stand out. A misguided and uneven album that tries to revive Slim Shady's edge, but ends up sounding out of touch and tired. While Eminem's post-revival output shows glimpses of improvement, it's still plagued by the same flaws. Overly technical rapping with little emotional connection, awkward feature choices, and poor production consistency. On the other hand, Nick Cannon's recent discography shows real growth. His albums are conceptually cohesive, emotionally authentic, and stylistically diverse. He experiments, he evolves, and most importantly, he creates songs with real replay value. From melodic R&B fusion to deeply personal themes, Nick Cannon has proven that he's far more than the corny Nickelodeon guy. Eminem may always be the more technically gifted MC, but Nick Cannon has been making better music for years now, and no amount of double time rapping can change that.